What if I told you that all the fun you have sports betting is the reason why you lose so much money? I get it. Sports betting is fun. Gambling, sports betting, parlays, they all give me this dopamine rush that I'm sure you get too, that probably nothing else can even come close to giving you. That was a bit of an exaggeration. Take that with a grain of salt. But what if I were to tell you that the more boring sports betting is for you, the more money you can end up making? This is $40,000, and I made all of that in 1 month. Well, how can it be boring if you're making $40,000? I am going to show you 3 of the most boring sports betting strategies that literally put me to sleep because it prints me so much money. I'm used to it by now. I've been doing this for so long, and these are the 3 strategies that make me a ton of money, but I'm also gonna warn you, sports betting won't be as fun when you know you're gonna win. Let's get straight into it. So the first strategy that I have for you guys is called correlation. Now, how is correlation profitable on Prize Picks? First, I wanna go over what it actually means for 2 props or 2 players to be correlated. And the easiest example I have for you guys is a quarterback and his wide receiver. If a quarterback goes over his passing yards, then it's more likely that his wide receiver will also go over his receiving yards, and vice versa. So why does this matter? Let's say, for example, we have Patrick Mahomes' over passing yards at fair odds, a 50% chance to hit. And if you're getting this prop at fair odds, that means you are betting $10 to win $20 back. And let's say you also take Justin Jefferson's over on wide receiving yards, just receiving yards, at the same odds, at fair odds, with a 50% chance to go over. Now, if you were to take these two together, you would multiply 50% times 50% to get 25% chance of those props hitting, right? Of those props hitting together. So if you had a fair sports book, that 25%, if you paired those together, you would get paid out 4 times your money. So $10 would give you $40 back. But if you took those on Prize Picks, you would only get paid out 3x. Now that's how Prize Picks makes their money. That's called the juice. That's called the vig. So how can we actually beat this? So what I just went over is based on the mathematical probability of independent events, where the probability of both A and B happening is equal to the probability of event A times the probability of event B. So now let's imagine that we use correlation in this strategy. Instead of taking Justin Jefferson's wide receiving yards, we're taking Travis Kelce's receiving yards. This is because that if Travis Kelce has at least 100 receiving yards, then we know that Patrick Mahomes has to have at least 100 passing yards. So now our equation changes. The probability of event A and event B happening is now equal to the probability of event A times the probability of event B given A. So what is the probability of event B given event A? That would be the probability of Mahomes going over given Kelce going over. So let's just take a look at their stats in the past. What if we find out that when Travis Kelce has over 80 receiving yards, Patrick Mahomes has went over 80% of the time? So now Patrick Mahomes has an 80% chance of going over his line during games that Kelce goes over his line. So now if we sub this into our equation, instead of 50 times 50, we have the probability of events A and B is now equal to 50% times 80%, which gives us 40% instead of the old 25. So now if we have a 40% chance of hitting this bet and we're getting paid out a 3x to place it, now we have a very profitable bet. And if we use these different strategies and combine different correlated props to different optimal Prize Picks parlays, over time we're going to see a lot more hits, a lot more profit, and that is how you're going to be very, very, very successful on Prize Picks. And I know that was very boring for you because that was very boring for me to even have to write out, script out, and say to you on camera. I never liked math, but data runs the world, so it should run your betting too. Let's get into strategy number 2. See what I did there? Alright guys, and the next strategy is something that you guys all know very well, called arbitrage sports betting. Now this one might be one of the most boring ones of them all, because I literally don't even have to watch the game to make money or to even worry about my bet hitting, because I'm never going to lose a sports bet using this strategy. Now arbitrage sports betting is the art of hedging bets, where we have one event and we're basically betting on every single possible outcome. So if we have an NBA game, we're betting on both teams to win. If we have a football game, we're betting on both the over and the under total corners scored. I don't know how football works, or soccer, whatever I just said, but you guys basically get it. We are betting on every single outcome and coming out with a small percentage of profit no matter what happens. If you are brand new and you don't know what I just said, I will explain it very, very briefly in the next clip. But if you already know what arbitrage is, just skip like the next 30 seconds. I got you. Alright guys, so as you can see, this is an opportunity for a soccer game. Our event is the total goals, right? So as I mentioned before, we're finding one event and betting on all possible outcomes of that event. So in this case, our event is the total goals, and we're going to be betting both the over 3.5 and the under 3.5. And I know this probably sounds a little bit counterintuitive, like you're probably saying, how are we going to make any money if we're betting both the over and the under? There are no sportsbooks stupid enough to have their lines that out of price. But that's why we're using two separate sportsbooks. Arbitrage is only possible with two different sportsbooks every single time you're placing a bet. Because you are right, no single sportsbook is going to have both the over and the under this mispriced so often. Right, so in this example, on sportsbook number 1, we're taking the over at plus 145 and the under on the other sportsbook, on sportsbook number 2, at minus 105. And this calculator basically tells us how much to put on each side of the wager in order to come out with a profitable bet, a small amount of profit or a percentage of your original stake, no matter what happens. Right, so in this case, if we put $400 on sportsbook number 1 and $500 on sportsbook number 2, our payout either way will either be $980 or $976. But as you can see, we only wagered a total of $900 combining both sportsbooks. So in both scenarios, if we come out with $980, we profit either $76 or $80 no matter what happens. So we can just lock this bet in, close the game, we don't even have to watch it. We just know that we're going to come out with $80 in profit. Or obviously you can adjust the stake sizes based on your bankroll, whatever you're comfortable with, and you'll come out with 7.98% ROI on your original wager. So there are some things that you need before you start arbitrage sports betting. And the main thing is just access to a bunch of different sportsbooks accounts. That's how you can actually get the most out of arbitrage sports betting, because it relies solely on the fact that the market is mispriced, that the market is very fragmented. And the reason the market is fragmented is because there are so many different data points from the thousands of different sportsbooks that these lines, right, they're all being updated and set independently by these different competing books, that they're always messing up. They're always being out of price with each other. They're always being mispriced. So within those small windows of opportunity, we're able to capitalize and take advantage of these bets. And the more sports books you're signed up to, the more sports books you have access to, you're obviously gonna get a ton more opportunities for arbitrage sports betting. And now that we understand what arbitrage sports betting is, how it works, and we just kind of went over that whole section, the third strategy is actually kind of going to be based on arbitrage. But instead of betting on both outcomes to make a small profit, we are only going to be taking the positive EV side, the profitable side. Because with arbitrage sports betting, by definition, one of the sides has to be a profitable bet, has to be, mispriced compared to the rest of the books, because that's the only way arbitrage works, right? If a book or both books are mispriced. But in this case, we are going to be looking for a couple different things. One, we're going to be looking for a ton of liquidity, which indicates there's sharp action going on, which basically tells me when or which side is profitable, which side I want to take. And two, we're basically just going to be comparing lines. We're going line shopping. So that's what I'll call this strategy. We're going line shopping. So there are a couple different ways we can go about going line shopping. By using the arbitrage tool, we can go and see, obviously, the crossed markets between two different sports books, and then we can click this little drop down right here and see the rest of the sports books data points and what their odds are at for the same line. So if there's an arbitrage opportunity between FanDuel and DraftKings the line is set at plus 200 when the rest of the market is at even money at plus 100, and FanDuel's line is at like minus 120, and the rest of the markets on the FanDuel side of things are around the same thing, minus 110, minus 115. The positive EV side is very clearly on DraftKings because that is the mispriced book compared to the rest of the market, right? That is a very mispriced line, and that is clearly the positive EV side of things where we can take action and place our bet on DraftKings. How positive EV works, or how line shopping works, is all about volume. If we are correctly taking positive EV stances and getting in enough volume every single day, we will be a profitable bettor in the long term. It's all about playing the long game, right? Imagine it like this. If you have a coin at fair odds 1-to-1, you bet heads, you bet tails. Sometimes you're gonna win heads, sometimes you're gonna win tails, but if you flip it 1,000 times, you're pretty much gonna be break even, right? You're not gonna make any money, you're not gonna lose any money. But now imagine this, you have a coin, but instead of it being fair, you now have a 55% chance to land on heads every single time that coin flips. Now just because you bet on heads maybe 5 times in a week, there's still a great possibility that you are going to land on tails all 5 times, and you're still going to lose money. But now if you flip that coin 10 times every single day, 20 times every single day, maybe even 30 times a day, now you start to average a lot more towards that 55% profit in your favor. Now taking these positive EV stances is similar to betting on heads on this rigged coin, right? If we're doing it enough times, if we're playing enough juice, if we're getting enough volume down, over time we're going to be a profitable sports bettor. And that's why I love line shopping, that's why I love positive EV, that's why I love sports betting and data-driven sports betting in general, because all of it kind of ties together with taking advantage of the mispriced market, with taking advantage of the fragments inside of the market. Alright guys, and that was 3 of the probably most boring sports betting strategies you have ever heard. And like I said, I don't even have fun doing these strategies anymore. I just keep doing them because they print me money. Everyone will agree that it's a lot more fun, a lot more exciting, a lot more dopamine inducing to sit there and watch the game and refreshing your prize picks to check if, you know, one of your research slips hit, if TJ McConnell scored 20 points today, right? It's a lot more fun to do that and actively watch the game. But that's why 97% of sports bettors aren't profitable. Because they don't have systems in place, because they're using emotions to gamble, because they're chasing losses. If you want to copy my exact step-by-step blueprint on how I make over 6 figures every single year from sports betting, then join my Discord down below. You'll get everything for absolutely free. So join the community of some of the best sports bettors in the world with a bunch of like-minded individuals just like you and me that always want to make money, are trying to get better at sports betting, are trying to get better in life in general, because that's what it's all about, man. Making money, having fun, living a good life, being happy. That's all I really care about. That's all you should care about too. And if this video helped you out in any way, shape, or form, make sure to support me. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, follow all my socials. Check out OddsJam using the link below, and join my Discord as well. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.